my funny Valentine.
Happy holidays and Merry Christmas Eve, everyone. Welcome to the 7th day of JoJomas, the day I've been waiting for all week, where we can finally talk about my favorite villain in the entire series. The main antagonist of the 7th part of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, Steel Ball Run, and the 23rd President of the United States, Funny Valentine. So I barely even know where to begin with Funny Valentine. Let's just start off with his character. Who is Funny Valentine? And to put it simply, you can describe Funny Valentine in one word. He is a patriot. Unlike a lot of the other villains in the series who work off their own personal agenda and work towards achieving their own personal goal or protecting what they want, whether it be world domination, being a serial killer in silence, protecting their quiet life, or wanting to continue to run a evil but yet successful Italian gang, whatever it may be, Funny Valentine is not working off his own accord. He has dedicated his entire life towards a greater good, protecting the safety and continue the prosperity of the United States of America. Ever since an extremely young age, since Funny Valentine's infancy around 7 years old, he has dedicated his entire life to his country. As soon as Funny Valentine was of age, he joined the army and served his country as a soldier, and during the war was where Funny Valentine pretty much established himself and knew that he needed to devote his life towards a greater good because of what he found. And it was the heart of the Holy Corpse. So once Funny Valentine found the heart of the corpse part, he realized that his life could serve a greater purpose, and that this power that he has found is much greater than any personal or, human desire that he would need. And he realized that he needed to devote his life to making sure that these corpse parts, because he realized there were more of them after realizing that this is the corpse of Jesus Christ, isn't it? And they are scattered throughout the West. So, and all of that was the catalyst of the Steel Ball Run race and just the overall plot of Steel Ball Run, which, in my opinion, Steel Ball Run's my favorite part. It has my favorite villain, Johnny being one of my favorite JoJos. It's just absolutely incredible. I love everything about this part, sort of the government conspiracy, the political conspiracy of Funny Valentine hosting the Steel Ball Run race, using Mr. Steel as sort of a front of a host, and having all of these racers travel across the United States from San Diego to New York with the goal to collect these corpse parts for him. It was just so incredible, especially with the Western setting. A lot of people like certain parts of JoJo based on personal reasons, and there's a little bit of everything for anyone in JoJo. A lot of people like Part 5 for its Italian gangster setting. Personally, I love Part 7 for its sport aspect of the horse racing, the Western setting, and just the government conspiracies. It was all just a melting pot of amazingness, and it was just like a personal part made for me, it felt like. And those are just a few of the reasons why I love Steel Ball Run so much, and also attributes to Funny Valentine being my favorite villain. So now with Funny Valentine realizing that he needs to have his life serving the purpose of collecting these corpse parts and making sure they don't fall into the wrong hands, we have the result of Steel Ball Run, like I said. And throughout JoJo, there's always some sort of duality between the main JoJo and the main villain, and I think this works best in Steel Ball Run, having Johnny Joestar being a very selfish character and Funny Valentine being probably the most selfless character we've seen in the entire series. Even so much so, his entire stand is based off the concept of being selfless and being able to pass on to other people. Although there are other Funny Valentines, every single time Funny Valentine dies in Steel Ball Run, which is a lot, too many to count, he is that Funny Valentine, his own personal consciousness dies, and he is entrusting his other selves to carry on his mission. It's the definition of selflessness, pretty much. And especially the fact that Johnny Joestar is working off very selfish emotions. Pretty much all of his goals, all of his motivations, and all of his characteristics throughout Steel Ball Run are based on selfish emotions, when, of course, Funny Valentine is the complete opposite of that. He has his personal desire is for a greater good. So I guess you can say, how Cars wanted to rule the world, and Dio wanted to achieve the overall goal of fate, or the overall stand of heaven, and have his mission be accomplished through everyone knowing their fate and everything, and just all the other main villains, main missions, Kira wanting to protect his quiet life. Funny Valentine, in a way, does have his own personal agenda to go off, but it's none of it is based off selfish desires or unreasonable motivations. Every other villain in the series, you can see why they're bad and why we shouldn't like them. And I really love in Steel Ball Run how we are introduced to a moral gray area that we haven't seen in the series before, where you really don't know whose side to be on. And looking back in Steel Ball Run in retrospect, one reason why I love Funny Valentine so much is because I side with it. Funny Valentine realizes the power of the corpse parts, you know, what their true power is, and what they're capable of, and he realizes that this cannot fall into the wrong hands. I am of sound mind and body, choosing to take these for myself and bring them to America and, you know, just sort of leave them here and bring greatness to the overall country. More so to obviously bring greatness to America and make it the greatest country in the world, which is his overall mission. But it is especially to make sure that these corpse parts do not fall into the wrong hands and are used for childish, mundane, and just evil reasons. And that's sort of how Funny Valentine views Johnny Joestar. He sees this childish person who wants to use the corpse parts for own personal desires, which he realizes that they have a much greater purpose and they cannot be used for petty things like this. And that's sort of why we have the huge conflict between Johnny Joestar and Funny Valentine. And getting on to the JoJomas aspect of this video, my favorite and least favorite moment from Funny Valentine, my favorite Valentine moment has to be his speech to Johnny after, you know, spoilers. You know, you should be expecting spoilers if you're watching a video about the main villain of Steel Ball Run. It's after he kills Gyro, and he gives his speech to Johnny Joestar about how he could bring another Gyro back, and how, you know, all of his actions are those of justice, and that his thoughts are utterly unclouded. The speech was just so beautiful, and after this main villain kills what is essentially the main character, being Gyro, a character that we have grown to know, he's become our friend throughout Steel Ball Run, and he's loved. After Funny Valentine gives this speech, you have a reason to like him, not so much like him, but you have a reason to understand his motivations. He pretty much lays out his entire manifesto. Unlike a lot of other villains in JoJo, we sort of see their motives and what they want through their actions, but what in this scene, Funny Valentine just tells us everything he is feeling, every desire he has, every motivation he has, and it works, and it's like, wow, like, God, and that's again, that brings in the moral gray area, and it makes you realize how great of a villain Funny Valentine is. A good antagonist is understandable, but a great antagonist is someone whose motives you can side with more than the protagonist. And that's sort of Funny Valentine in a nutshell. When you compare him and Johnny Joestar, it's really hard to say Johnny is a better character or has better motives when he really doesn't. Although you can say, yeah, Funny Valentine murders innocent people to achieve his overall goal, Johnny Joestar has murdered plenty of innocent people throughout Steel Ball Run, and for his purpose, completely selfish. Funny Valentine knows what he's doing. He's not insane, you know, he's not schizophrenic, or he's not, you know, clouded by his his insane reasoning, or, you know, lying to himself. Funny Valentine has he is completely aware of what he's doing, and he realizes that it's for justice. You know, so he has to kill people like Axel Rowe and some great characters that we meet throughout the way, like Wika Pipo and everything. He knows he's doing bad things, and he's able to accept that and be able to put that aside to, you know, achieve his overall goal. And I'm not saying, you know, it's, you know, which side you should go with. Obviously, it's not okay to murder innocent people to achieve your goal. But for Funny Valentine, you know, it comes down to, it's kind of like, you know, the train experiment where, you know, you see 2 people on a railroad. You see 5 people or you see 1. Either way, someone's going to die in this situation. But what do? Do you pull the lever so you only kill 1 person? Either way, you're still taking a life. But it's just sort of, you know, which one is morally correct, even though you're doing bad things. And, you know, Funny Valentine just creates so many complex thoughts and so many things that just make you question your own morals and putting yourself in his shoes, trying to decide, you know, what would be best to do. And it's hard to come to that conclusion. So Funny Valentine's speech and his personal manifesto was definitely my favorite moment from his character, and especially with a lot of his speeches, especially with the napkin, how, you know, we realize what Funny Valentine's entire thought process is, and it's hard to unreason with it, unlike you can say, oh, Kira, that guy's insane, or, you know, Diavolo, that guy's insane. It's just like, Funny Valentine is a completely conscious person who knows what he's doing, and it's hard to say what he's doing is bad when you have, you know, the only counterpart to him is Johnny. So now getting into least favorite moment from Funny Valentine, and, you know, although I'm praising him a little bit here, he is a villain. He is a bad person in a lot of ways. And one thing that really, you know, showed, you know, what kind of sort of corrupt person he is was his scene with Lucy Steele. He knew Lucy Steele was, and it was a really intense, really threatening scene where, you know, he kind of turns into like a stereotypical villain from a bad guy, like, I will murder your children, I will murder your entire family, your husband. You know, murdering innocent people just as threats. And there was definitely with his scene with Lucy Steele, after she was, you know, disguised as Scarlet using hot pants. I believe this was in chapter 62 was when there was a very heavy underlying theme of pedophilia and just like sort of molestation. He was like trying to rape Lucy Steele essentially, but you know, it was sort of coming off like, where are you hiding those corpse parts? Like, I know you have them somewhere. And she was naked and she was underage, and that was pretty fucked up from Funny Valentine. So as much as I love Funny Valentine, he does have, you know, really bad characteristics at times. You know, he is this high member of, you know, the government. He is the president of the United States, and at a lot of moments he does think he is above people. He thinks he is morally superior, and he doesn't sort of view himself on the same pedestal as, you know, any other person. But in the end, as much as I love Funny Valentine and I think he is a great character and does have good motives, he is a villain and ever so deserving of that title. So that was JoJomas Day 7. Merry Christmas Eve, everyone. Thank you all for watching. So I hope this didn't come off too strong of me siding with Funny Valentine and saying that, you know, I view Funny Valentine as the protagonist of Steel Ball Run. Not that way at all. Funny Valentine does a lot of fucked up shit. He's a really evil guy, but he does have very good motives, and he is a lot different from a lot of the other villains in JoJo. And I really like his selfless nature, and you know how that ties into his D4C ability, and just how different he was, and how it really did create a moral gray area for the readers to decide, you know, what is right in the situation. And it's sort of, in my opinion, neither of them. Humans are imperfect. There's no such thing as a perfect person, and both Johnny, Joestar, and Valentine are perfect examples of people who are just, you know, bad. So thank you all for watching. Let me know your opinions on Funny Valentine in the comments down below. I will be happy to discuss this with you guys. And tomorrow, we will be doing JoJoLands. A lot of you guys have been asking. I've mentioned at the end of a few of these JoJomas videos. It's just going to be a discussion of who I think is going to be the main villain and possible candidates for that spot, and what their motives are going to be and everything like that. So I'll see you all tomorrow on Christmas Day for a JoJoLands discussion about the main villain. Thank you all for watching. I will see you tomorrow. All right? Goodbye. Double peace.